If you thought that I bought a lot of books last month, check out December's haul. Since it was December, I decided to treat myself as I usually do, and I went to some used bookstores. I went on eBay and made some orders. So these are all of the books that I bought in December. There are about 80 books total that I'm going to be showing you, and that doesn't count the books that I got in my Nightworms package, which I will link that up there in case you missed it and you want to go check it out. Doesn't include those books since I already did a whole video about it. And then also I got a whole bunch of books for Christmas. And I did a big Christmas haul. So you can go and watch the Christmas haul also. So these are the books that were sent to me by publishers and authors. I received a copy for review of Secret Santa by Andrew Schaefer. I just recently talked about this in my Christmas horror video. I did already read this, got my review up before Christmas. Loved this. This was so fun. I also received a copy of 25 Gates of Hell. This is a anthology with stories by many different indie authors. Brian Keene is also in here. And this has a story by my good friend Janine Pipe, who hooked me up with a copy of this, so thank you, Janine. I also received a copy of Don't Call at All by Robbie Miles. Robbie Miles is another good friend of mine that I met through Instagram, and he is now publishing his very first book. This is a middle grade horror novella, very much like Goosebumps, and the cover art is of course by my very good pal Cameron Rubik, who did an amazing job. I actually formatted the interior of the book for Robbie. A lot of people did some very big favors for me when I published my book. I had, of course, Cameron Rubik do the cover art for my book. My very good friend Christopher Rondina, who is also an author, he did the exterior design of the paperback, but I did the interior design of Autumn Crow myself, and I decided to use what I learned and help Robbie out. So you can expect to see this book, I think in February is when he's planning on putting it out. But it was a really cute little middle grade horror book, so if you liked Goosebumps growing up, or you want to get something spooky for your kids that's not going to be too spooky, this is a good one to go for. And then I also was sent some brand new comics from Blood Scream Comics, aka Sparkle Comics. I was recently put in touch with Sparkle Comics through a contact at the library. He actually is friends with the fine people who run the company, and I've actually been a fan of Sparkle Comics for a long time. They're out of Dayton, Ohio, so they're a local comic book company. So my contact at the library put me in contact with them, and we got to talking, and they sent me some of their latest comics. So we have the Giant Gila Monster, which is one of my favorite 50s B monster movies. We also have Curse of the Beast #1 and #2. Those are both based off of Paul Naschy's films. And then we have Enter the Devil. I've read so many of their comics in the past, and they do really cool stuff. So definitely go and check them out on their website. I also ordered some brand new books. This one was from Amazon, and it is Haunted Harvest, a collection of eerie poems to celebrate Halloween by Richard J. Anderson. And I saw that this was on sale for like $6. I didn't know exactly what it was. I mean, I knew it was a book of poetry centered around Halloween. I didn't realize though that it was so short. There's not really a whole lot in here, but I really like the design of the cover. It's really cool and vintage Halloween, which I really like. I also saw that this was on sale on Amazon, so I picked it up. This is Sweet as Wong by Anthony Haynes. He's an author I've been wanting to check out. I have another one of his books that I haven't read yet, but I'll definitely check these out soon. I also picked up the latest book from Sergio Gomez. This is called The Visitor. I have read Sergio's other book called The Toy Maker, and I just recently finished his book Camp Slaughter. I'm going to be having a review of that go up really soon. I've been meaning to make it for a while, but I want to do something special, something kind of like a short slasher film, and it's been either too cold or too snowy, and I just haven't been able to make it. But as soon as the weather warms up, I'm going to be filming that. But this is his latest book. It's called The Visitor. It's kind of a Christmas alien invasion story. Looks really cool. I'm going to be reading this sometime this year, and then I'm going to review it around Christmas time. I'll probably do a sequel to my Christmas horror video, and this is probably going to be in there because Sergio's books are really good. Another one that'll probably end up being in that Christmas horror video sequel is 5 Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. There was a comment on one of my previous videos from a viewer. They said that they were reading this book for Christmas and it was really good. It's about this girl who's trying to make her way home for Christmas, but she is now snowed in at this airport, and she becomes friendly with her seatmate who says, hey, we're about to drive home, we'll just drop you off on the way. So she gets in the car with these 5 total strangers who are also strangers to one another. They don't know each other at all. They're just making this trip together through this blizzard, and things, of course, go wrong. So this sounds really good, like a really tight thriller. Excited to read this. Also, didn't know this until I got the book, but Natalie Richards is from Columbus, Ohio, which is really close to where I live. So, really cool. Local author. I also got a copy of We All Scream for Ice Cream by Lou Yardley. Now, this was only about $3 on Amazon. It's a novella, a little chat book. Couldn't pass picking this up. Lou is awesome. She has a really cool YouTube channel. She co-hosts the Cryptids, Crips, and Coffee podcast with Janine Pipe. And Lou writes like a maniac. She has so many books out. I have a couple of hers on my review card that I still need to get to. It's Rise of the Carnivores and The Dealmaker. So I'm going to add this to the mix. Should be a fun little quick read. I also recently found this while I was at the grocery. I was there just to pick up a couple of things real quick and leave. I wasn't even going to look at books. I just wanted to get in and get out. But I saw this sitting on top of their clearance table on my way by, and I had to grab it. It was only $6. It's a first edition hardcover of The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, who also wrote the book Final Girls. And then I also made an order from Cemetery Dance. They were having a sale on their website where it was buy one, get one free. Great deal. So I picked up a signed hardcover limited edition of Touch the Night by Max Booth III. This one is limited to 750 copies, and I got number 669, signed by Max. And I also got a signed limited hardcover copy of The Notch by Tom Holland, who, of course, is the creator-director of Child's Play, Chucky, and he directed Fright Night, 2 of my favorite movies. Take a look at this big stack of books. There's this bookstore that is in my town. They used to be at the mall. They ended up closing down because the rent was too high, and they moved to this house across my town. I went there when they first opened, and I kind of forgot that they were there because 2020 kind of distracted me, and I decided to go back and see if they had anything new, and sure enough, they did. And they're actually having a big sale because they want to convert the entire store into an occult bookstore. So, you know, metaphysical occult books. And they're trying to sell off all of their other books. So all of the books that were not metaphysical books were $1 each, and they were also having a buy one get one free. So basically everything was 50 cents. And I loaded up. I found this really nice first printing copy of Goosebumps number 40. This is Night of the Living Dummy 3. This still has the trading cards and bookmark on the inside. Much better than the copy that I've had since I was a kid, which was missing the cards altogether. Really glad to have a nice copy of this one now. I also found quite a bit of vintage horror paperbacks. So the first one I have here is Second Fire by Robert C. Wilson. It's the author of Crooked Tree. Frights of Fancy by J. N. Williamson. The Eyes of the Darkness by Lee Nichols, who is also Dean Koontz. This is a first printing. Not in the best of shape, but it's 50 cents. And it's a pretty rare book, so I'm glad I picked that up. The Diviner. This is by Marilyn Harris. And we have a few reading copies. I do have mint condition copies of these. And, you know, since these books are so rare and hard to find, whenever I can find a really nice copy, I like to keep it in nice condition because not many nice copies of these books exist. So I feel like it's my duty, if I find a nice copy of one of these books, to not ruin it by reading it and creasing up the spine. So I'm either really careful with those books, or I try to find another copy that I can read and not have to worry about ruining my nice copy. These are all copies of books that I already have minty copies of, and I just wanted a reading copy. So here we have The Wrath. This is by David Robbins. I have read another one of his books before. Really, this one isn't in bad shape. It's a little creased up, but it's not too bad. We also have Trapped by Edmund Plant and Bloodchild by Andrew Niederman. So whenever I read these copies, I'm going to pass them on to somebody else to read. I also found a few mystery books at the bookstore. So we have the Caravaggio books by Bernard Peterson. We have one of the Mary Roberts Reinhardt Zebra Books editions. This is called Miss Pinkerton. I really like these editions of her books. The covers are always really cool. Actually, most of the Zebra Books covers of her books are really brutal and usually have like a bloody axe or a bloody head on the cover. They're usually pretty gory and graphic. This one's pretty tame, but look up some of the other covers of her books. They're pretty wild. I also found a copy of The Convivial Codfish by Charlotte MacLeod. I've never heard of this author before, but that really grabbed my eye. And I also didn't realize until I got home that it is also signed by her. So there was a first printing signed for only 50 cents. Next we have a hardcover. This is a novel, Murder. It's the first book in the Secrets of the Castleton Manor Library. This is a big series of books. There's like 30 books in this series, but I'm glad I was able to find the first book in the series. It looks really cozy and fun. It's a nice cozy mystery, and the library in this series is almost like a resort of sorts, so a resort for bookworms. Sounds pretty cool. And I also found one of the books in the Agatha Christie Mystery Collection. This one is The Murder at the Vicarage. It's one of the Miss Marple books. A couple more that I got at that bookstore. We have a James Herbert hardcover. This one is called Nobody True. I believe this is more of a science fiction horror. The Empire of Fear by Brian Stableford, vampire novel. And I was blown away to find this. Here is a first edition, first printing hardcover of The Island by Peter Benchley. Beautiful copy. As soon as I saw this on the shelf, I figured it must be a book club edition, but I took it off and sure enough, it's got the price, not price clipped, which obviously means it's an official trade edition, and it says first edition on the dust jacket. Pretty easy to distinguish a first edition of this. So happy to have found this for only 50 cents. That's crazy. And then because I got all of those books for only $8, I decided I needed to buy something else from her store. So I looked at her occult books, and she had a lot of really interesting titles that I was looking into. But I saw that she had one of the books from this spooky series. This one's called Spooky New England, Tales of Hauntings, Strange Happenings, and Other Local Lore. This was only $7, so I went ahead and added this to my pile. Really nice copy, and I'd like to collect this whole series eventually. Next, I made a Book Outlet order. I haven't ordered any books from Book Outlet in a long time, mostly because they're just not what they used to be. Every single time I order from them, I get a ton of damaged books in the mail, like really damaged, and they aren't very good about sending replacements anymore. They used to be. It used to be that if you ordered a book and it wasn't a scratch and dent copy, but it came damaged, they would replace it or they would refund the money. So I wound up getting quite a few really damaged books from them this time around, and I contacted them thinking they were going to replace it or refund the money and I could just send the damaged books back. But they were like, no, we're not going to refund the money and we're not going to send replacements. And I got a little upset because I did not buy scratch and dent copies. Sure enough, they wound up sending me replacements for the books that were damaged. And they said that they would not do it in the future, which is fine. I won't order from them again. But I have some books here. So the first one is I'd Rather Be Reading by Anne Bogle. I actually checked this out from the library recently and gave it a read and loved it. It was so good, so cozy. If you love books the way that I do, definitely check this out. It's a lot of fun. I also got a nice stack of the Nancy Drew Diaries books in hardcover. This is the latest Nancy Drew series. So we have number 9, Clue at Black Creek Farm. Number 10, The Stolen Show. Number 17, Famous Mistakes. Number 19, Hidden Pictures. And number 15, The Professor and the Puzzle. I also ordered The Haunting of Henry Davis by Catherine Siebel. This was one that had the most amount of damage. The dust jacket on the spine was completely ripped and there were dents all over the book. It looked like it had been through quite a lot. So fortunately, they replaced it, and I now have this really nice copy. And I also ordered 5 Midnights from them, which is a YA horror book set in Puerto Rico. I've also ordered quite a few horror books off of eBay lately, and I also ordered some off of Etsy that haven't arrived yet. I'm real excited for those because I've been recently getting in the mood for 90s YA horror again, because Netflix, of course, picked up the Fear Street movies, so we're going to get Fear Street movies, we're going to get a Netflix series of Christopher Pike's work, and HBO Max is now making a point horror anthology series. So I've been in the mood to go back and read some point horror, and I really don't have a lot of the UK editions of point horror books, which often have amazing cover art, so I got this one off of eBay. This is The Mall by Richie Tinkersley Cusick. This was not part of the point horror series in the States. It was actually published by Archway Paperbacks, and this is the American edition. And then the UK got it, and it became part of the point horror series. So I thought that was pretty cool. They both have very, very different covers. I think I prefer the UK edition, the point horror one. That is just a really freaking cool cover. But I do like the colors on the US edition too, so it's a little hard to decide, but leaning more toward this one. And I also have a whole bunch of other point horror UK editions that I ordered from an Etsy store set in France, so it's coming a long way, but it'll get here eventually. And I also ordered a few books from an eBay store. The first one is Heads, You Lose. This is by Robert B. Gillespie. I'd never heard of this before and was stunned to see this on this eBay store. I had to get it right away. Even though it's not in the best shape, I still had to get it because I've literally never seen this in my life. And I think the reason for that is because this actually is not a horror novel. This is a Paper Jacks mystery. Paper Jacks books are really rare to begin with, but I didn't know that they published any mysteries. I'm gonna start looking in the mystery section of bookstores a little more often to see if I can find any of their other mystery books, because if the covers are this cool, then I'm definitely gonna want to get them. And the tagline on the cover of this says, "Ralph Simmons may think he's seeing things on the morning after the night before, but his old friend's severed head is no hallucination." Sounds really weird. Very curious. And from the same eBay store, I got a copy of Morning Ran Red, which is based on a true crime. This one is in perfect condition. And they also had a copy of the 90s YA horror book, Bobby's Back. This is from the Scared to Death series. These are really rare. I've never seen any of these pop up before, but I'm really happy I finally did. The next bookstore that I went to in December was Browse a While Books, which is in Tip City, Ohio. It's actually the town where my dad grew up, and Browse a While Books is awesome. They have an amazing store. It's actually haunted. You can look up stuff about it online. They actually had a couple of ghost hunters shows come and take a look at the store. But besides the ghosts, if you like books, especially vintage horror, definitely check them out. They have a lot of cool vintage horror titles in the basement, which is actually considered the most haunted part of the store, obviously. And I found quite a few vintage horror books while I was there. Most of their books are pretty well priced, though they do have a couple of rarer titles that are a little more expensive. So this is one of those. I picked up Razor's Edge by Robert W. Walker. Grisly graphic cover on that one. This is a Pinnacle title from the 80s. I think this was published in 89. This was $15. Most of their books tend to be like $3 to $5. But I decided to splurge because this is a beautiful copy and I've been looking for it for a long time. This is in almost mint condition. Next I got a copy of The Possession of Jessica Young by Russ Martin. It was only $3. It's not in the best of shape, but this is a rare book. I see these going for quite a bit online. Same for this other book by Russ Martin. This is The Obsession of Sally Wing. I actually do have a copy of this book back here, but it was only $3. And again, super rare book. Since it was so inexpensive, I had to go ahead and just pick it up anyway. I also found a copy of Night Vision by Frank King. It's a Tor paperback. Hellbane by Anthony Esler. This is one from the 70s. I think it was published in 75. Tempter by Nancy Collins. Tower of Evil by James Kisner. The Black Hotel by Andrew Lawrence. And then I also got a couple of YA horror books. We have Horoscope by Nicholas Adams, which apparently is also going to be made into a movie soon, surprisingly. And also a first printing of Fear Street Ski Weekend by R.L. Stine. Trying to find nice first edition copies of all of the Fear Street books. It's been extremely hard to do, but find them little bits at a time. It's just taking a while. If anybody out there knows where I can find first printing Fear Street books in nice condition, please let me know. I will love you forever. Next is book number 4 of the Twist-A-Plot series. This one's by R.L. Stine. It's called Golden Sword of Dragon Walk. It's a fantasy title in the series. These are like the choose your own adventure. Some are fantasy, some are sci-fi, some are horror. You never really know what you're going to get. Speaking of R.L. Stine, I found a perfect mint condition copy of Goosebumps number 15, You Can't Scare Me. Like I said, first printing. It's in such nice condition, so much better than the one that I've had since I was a kid. I also found a couple of Hardy Boys books. These ones are actually pretty rare because they weren't reprinted that I know of. We have 160, a game called Chaos, and then they did a cover change and started using this design for 161. This one is Training for Trouble. And then I also found a copy of Dana Girls number 23. This one is the Sierra Gold Mystery. Thought this was a first printing when I bought it at the bookstore, but it's actually a second edition. They did have a price tag on the cover, and I was trying to be really careful, but it still wound up tearing a little bit of the cover off, unfortunately. But otherwise, a very nice copy. It was only $4. I've also been going to a lot of thrift stores lately. Goodwill's, St. Francis, you name it. And I've found quite a few cool books. So from a Goodwill, I found The Books You Read by Charles E.T. Jones. I've never heard of this book before. It's a really nice hardcover. I love a good book about books, so had to pick that up. I also found one of the Sweet Valley High books. This one is Jessica's Secret Diary Volume 2. Of course, I always pick up Sweet Valley whenever I find them. And then I went to a St. Francis thrift store. This one is one of the Zebra Gothic books. This is called The Shifting Shadows of Moongate. They also had book number 29 in Alfred Hitchcock and the Three Investigators. This is called The Mystery of the Sinister Scarecrow. This is a UK edition. I have no idea how it ended up in a St. Francis in Ohio, but I'm glad I was able to find it. That is an amazing cover, super spooky. I also found a bunch of 80s and 90s middle grade paperbacks. The first one is Phantom Trucker by Jason K. Friedman. Babysitter's Club, Mystery number 7, Dawn and the Disappearing Dogs. First printing in really nice shape. It was only 49 cents. And then they had a whole bunch of the Apple paperbacks. These are all from the early 80s. These are all first printings, so I decided to just pick them all up since they were super cheap. We have Wendy and the Bullies by Nancy K. Robinson. The Closed Circle by Corinne Gearson. This looks really cool. It's kind of witchy, and the first chapter opens up on Halloween, so I had to grab that. Just Tell Me When We're Dead by Eve Clifford. This is one that I've had my eye on online for a while, and it wound up selling out on Etsy, so I wasn't able to get it. But here we go. There's a nice first edition copy. The Pinballs by Betsy Byers. It's about a group of kids who come together in a foster home. And Laura's Luck by Marilyn Sachs. This is a book set at a summer camp, which I am all for. I also found a first edition hardcover of Spook by Mary Roach. Science Tackles the Afterlife. I read one of Mary Roach's other books called Stiff, which is all about cadavers and what happens to your body after you die. This is about what happens to your soul after you die and all of the different belief systems. So I thought that sounded really cool. I love Mary Roach's writing style. She's very informative, but also really witty at the same time. It makes reading nonfiction a little less boring. They also have this beautiful Impress mystery edition of Anatomy of a Murder by Robert Traver. Really nice copy. And then they had a couple of the X-Files graphic novels that I was missing. I think there are 3 in this series total. I had volume 2 already, so I found volume 1 and volume 3. So now I have the complete set. I also went to an Ollie's bargain outlet store and found The Inexplicable Logic of My Life, which is by the same author who wrote Aristotle and Dante, Discover the Secrets of the Universe. I really enjoyed Aristotle and Dante, so I went ahead and picked this one up from Ollie's. It was only $6.99. Really nice hardcover edition. Lastly, I went to a Half Price Books and I found quite a few good things. So we have Alfred Hitchcock's Coffin Break, another Hitchcock book. This one is an anthology of short horror stories and mystery stories. Of course, couldn't walk out of Half Price Books without a bunch of Babysitters Clubs. These are all first printings and they're all in really nice shape. So we have Mystery number 20, Mary Ann and the Zoo Mystery. One of the books from the Portrait Collection. This is Abby's book. I don't really know what these are exactly, but I looked them up on eBay and they seem to be pretty rare. So I'm glad I was able to find a cheap copy of that. We also have number 86 in the series, Mary Ann and Camp BSC. Mystery number 3, Mallory and the Ghost Cat. Number 78, Claudia and Crazy Peaches. Mystery number 18, Stacy and the Mystery at the Empty House. And number 81, Christy and Mr. Mom. I also found one of the books in the Sweet Valley Kids series. This is number 12, Sweet Valley Trick or Treat. I don't really pick up many of these Sweet Valley Kids books just because they don't seem as entertaining to an adult man. But the Sweet Valley High books, those are fun because they're just trashy and you never know what to expect. But I decided to pick this one up because it's a Halloween edition to the series. So there's that. Found a couple more Goosebump books. I was really happy to find number 54, Don't Go to Sleep. This one is first printing, beautiful condition, still has the trading cards and bookmark inside. I've been having a lot of luck finding nice Goosebumps books lately. My copy from when I was a kid had coffee stains all over it, so I'm glad that I have a nice copy to replace it. Also found book 40 in the Give Yourself Goosebumps series. This one's called Zombie School. Very rare book. I've never been able to find it before. I have a lot of the books in this series, most of them, just collecting them when I was a kid, but this one passed me by for some reason. And last but not least, I found a bunch of really nice copies from the Fright Time series, which was like a Goosebumps knockoff. I had copies of these already because I have all of the Fright Time books, but these are in much better shape than the ones that I had, so these are just replacements. We have book number 4, number 10, number 6, and then we also have book number 2 and book number 5. So there we go, some nice replacements for the Fright Time series. And that's it. That was a lot. Didn't even realize how much that was until I started going through everything, and I have a headache now from talking and my jaw hurts. So I'm gonna cut it here and get ready for bed. I'm super tired. Thank you all so much for watching and for sitting with me throughout this whole video. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. Let me know down below in the graveyard if you've read any of these books, what you thought. I'll catch you in the next video. Later, creeps.
Thank you.